Good morning, everyone. How are you doing? My name is Zach Clayton. I am here with the family, and we've got a great guest today. Diamond Drip is going to come on and talk to us about psilocybin. I did it twice. I said it correctly twice. I'm very happy with this. So this is going to be one of our first shows where, there's going to be a little bit of controversy on it, but we ask you to please remember, if this is not for you, just remember this is for someone else. This is a perfect way for them to get out of their own head and help themselves. And Irene is joining us from over in Japan. So hello, Irene. It's great to see you. Yep, she's in Tokyo. So so it's almost nighttime, bedtime for her. So but we have a brand new addition to our family. You guys met her a couple weeks ago, and I'm going to ask her to go first. Erin, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
Hi, everybody. It's an honor to be here. My name is Erin Davenport, and I live over in the great world of Nashville. I'm pretty new, been here for a year and a half. With my husband and our 2 cats and a dog, so can't really put me in the dog or the cat camp. I have them both. And I'm just really, really honored to be a part of something that's just so powerful in helping to bring awareness. And outside of this, I love to help people. I'm big into ministry, into mindset, into trips to Kenya. I do all the things, whatever I can find to be able to help people, you'll find me there. So thank you so much for inviting me and having me on.
Well, Erin, we really thought that your story about your sister was so powerful and so important, and we appreciated your honesty with that. And we've got some really good news that it sounds like your parents are ready to reach out to us as well. So that's fantastic, because I know that, hopefully this will help the healing process. But thank you for joining us on a full-time family basis. Stephanie, you're up.
Good morning, Zach. Erin, welcome to the family. Good morning, Mr. Z. Always nice to see you. My name is Stephanie Simoes. I work with nonprofit organizations and people year-round to assist with fundraising through One Hope Wine. So we are a cause-centered winery out of Napa Valley with over $9.7 million donated to date. What I do is I specialize in fundraising, gifting, private wine events, and wine delivery. With having the baby, I didn't drink for a year, so there you go. My backdrop. So when you pour a glass of wine or send a gift, it's a great feeling to know that that bottle made an impact for a nonprofit organization that's important to you. That's what I love. Zach and I run a monthly show highlighting smaller nonprofit organizations to help them fundraise, but most importantly, to get their mission out there to more people. Definitely join us this Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, because I'm putting Zach in the hot seat and talking about Community Dare to Care and Community Pay It Forward this month. Really, really excited about that he agreed to do this. It's about time. I'm also the co-founder of PNS Properties. We are a family-run business that's working to curb the homelessness crisis in our veteran communities. We work with HUD-VASH recipients on housing and are working to build veteran communities, housing, while providing support and resources. Off to the homestead. I'm the co-founder of New Heights Homestead. We are traveling 580 miles with our family of 7 to build a mountaintop homestead from the ground up. So if you love animals, more natural living topics, and are curious about homesteading, you can follow and subscribe to our YouTube channel and come on the journey with us. But I'm really happy to be here. This mission is important to me because the last few years working in the nonprofit space, I have learned so much about where our systems are really lacking in support. I believe that education and resources for those needing assistance is really, really important to help bring the number of losses in the other direction. So I wear many hats. Feel free to connect with me through my link tree, and happy Monday, everybody.
Hey, Stephanie, it looks like Irene has something for you. Maybe you can get a hold of each other, and maybe you can help her out. Irene, right here is Stephanie's link tree. I will send you a direct message. That way you have it. Matter of fact, you know what? Let me just go on ahead and do this. I'm going to put her link tree in the chat. That way it's hyperlinked and you can get a hold of her and maybe help her out. And I know an organization that if you purchase, you can help me out this month. So it would be great. But if you don't choose us, there's plenty of other organizations out there that are well worth your donations. So, but thank you very much, Stephanie. Mr. Z, you're up, brother man.
Thank you, brother man, and good morning to you, the goddess of the grape, Steph, web detective Trevor, and of course, welcome Aaron to the Community Footprints family. Always great to see everyone here, and thank you, Steph, for the kind words and your goddessness, I guess you could say, and always good to see everyone, especially everyone here. So with that being said, my name is Z, or you can call me Mr. Z. I am a web developer, and I am also a consultant that specializes in helping nonprofits, veteran-owned business owners, family-owned business owners, and entrepreneurs like yourselves who are looking to maintain, modify, develop, or redevelop a custom website Z World is waiting for. Thank you so much, and back to you, brother man.
Well, thank you very much. Somebody else who's in the web world and a very, very good friend of ours, somebody who can help you stay ADA compliant, which is not only good for your business, because if people are not able to read your website, you're going to lose business. If people cannot read your website, there's a potential of losing quite a bit of money. Mr. Trevor Gibbs, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking. How's everyone else here? So if you see me smiling at various words at randomly, it's because of our friend Stephanie, you know, the grape squasher. And I'm thinking, oh, yeah. And I think, oh, I'd love to either squeeze or pull. And I think, no, everything I do is going to have a connotation which people will want to hear about today. And I'm thinking, you know, and just reminds me of an old British comedian who said, oh, I feel so strong, I think I could crush a grape. And that's the only thing that's coming out of my mouth today about grapes, because otherwise, if I squeeze or pull somebody else's, I'm going to get in big trouble.
Yeah.
So yes, you mentioned about the accessibility side of it. That's what I do. Being the web detective, I am actually here to help and protect your brand. Whether you're a non-profit or a for-profit business, doesn't make any difference. I have a passion to help non-profits, hence why I'm here. But at the end of the day, it's to help you, to help your business or your non-profit, because the last thing that anybody wants is a lawsuit. And having come to the US, I found out that your country is very litigious. It doesn't matter what you say or what you do, they love to sue you. And I don't come from that society, so I'm actually here to protect you. And that is some of the things that we do as the web detective, kind of work a lot in partnership with our web developer here, Mr. Z. And together we actually make sure that people can access and read your website. Not only can they navigate it, but also they can find it. And I spent 20 odd years in marketing, but today it's all about helping those who need to be helped.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, Trevor. And please remember, by using by ordering wine through Stephanie, by getting your website built and taken care of by Trevor, you can donate to causes of your choice through the Community Pay It Forward program. So these are all, everyone here is very important to us, both business-wise and personally, because little announcement, today is 9 years since my accident. I was driven off the road 9 years ago today. So it's been a 9 years of interesting. It's been a 9-year interesting journey, and as you guys can tell, my brain's a little fried because of this. But you know, I want to thank anybody and everybody who's had anything and everything to do with the growth of Community Pay It Forward, Community Dare to Care, the PAC channels, Footprints Forward, anything and everything that we've done in this 9-year. Thank you. I love you very much, and let's keep it up and keep working. One of the reasons, folks, we've got to keep working is because we got a statistic. I found a news story the other day, and it's not a good news story. The numbers are in for 2022. In 2022, here in America alone, we lost 49,449 people to suicide. That's 135 people a day, or 5 people every hour. And these are the numbers in America alone. So we've still got a lot of work to do, and you joining with us in this mission, maybe we can help knock these numbers down. But remember, to help many, we've got to help that first one. So let's work together to make sure that we've got everyone taken care of. Our guest today is going to offer us a way to potentially help someone. Remember, not every cure is for everyone, but every cure is for someone. So I am very proud and lucky to introduce to you Miss Diamond Drip. Diamond, how are you doing, sweetheart?
Hi, Zach. Thank you so much. I am doing awesome. Thank you. How are you?
We're doing great. You've had a you had an experience with clinical depression and other things. And instead of before we get into the psilocybin, what other treatments have you tried?
Oh, yeah. That's actually a great question. It's one of the qualifications for the trial that I was in. So, before going through the experience with psilocybin, I was on like Prozac, Seroquel, Abilify, Risperidone, probably any sort of antidepressant that you can think of that can be used to depression within people with bipolar 2 disorder. I was on it and it didn't work. One of the main things was that, you know, they call them antidepressants, but they don't make you feel anti-depressed. They just make you feel numb and complacent, and they just help you get through the day. They don't actually make you happy.
I think they've got that one commercial where the lady has the stick figure of the face. And you know, there's a lot of antidepressants that I know. When I was trying to quit smoking, I was on one antidepressant that had the complete opposite. I raged with that. And I'm not going to name the drug because it doesn't need to be named, but you got to be very, very careful with those prescriptions, because if you're not paying attention, while the doctor doesn't mean for bad stuff to happen, it's very easy for the opposite reaction, right?
Yes, 100% of the time.
Yeah. I want to share a little something. One of the things that I do for my own personal headaches, and this is just something that's going to match with today's show. I take these little gummies here, and there's the dogs eating each other. Of course, they got to get into the camera shot, but these are THC gummies. Okay. THC is another name for marijuana, but these little gummies help me with my headache and I take these at night. And I do this to try to take and lessen my headaches. And they look at that, Diamond. Yep. So, but I take them at night, and they help me to sleep, and they help control the headaches. So, but I've never tried mushrooms. Why don't you go on ahead and tell us about your journey into psilocybin?
For sure. So my journey with psilocybin, it really took the course that it's on now after watching a Red Table Talk episode, actually. And for those who aren't familiar with the Red Table Talk, that is the show that is hosted by Jada Pinkett Smith, Will Smith's wife. And they talk about controversial issues, things that are just good to know for the public. And one of the episodes that they did, they had Michael Pollan on. And Michael Pollan wrote the book, How to Change Your Mind, What the Science of Psychedelics Teaches Us. It's some really long title, but if you search Michael Pollan, How to Change Your Mind, it will come up. And he was basically discussing just some of the scientific advancements when it came to psilocybin. And he was saying that, or actually the mom, Jada Pinkett's mom, she asked, with all of these improvements in this scientific space, why don't we see more Black people utilizing mushrooms, especially to treat things like generational trauma, since it's been known to have positive effects with people who have PTSD. And basically, what was the determination of why they don't do it more is, one, they don't see diverse faces of color talking about the benefits of what it can do for them. Two, the legal ramifications, because unfortunately, psilocybin and THC is a Schedule I drug. So it's right up there with cocaine and heroin and meth. And it really just shouldn't be, but that's a discussion for another time. And for me, when I heard these things, I wanted to become one of those diverse faces talking about what the power of psychedelics can do for your mental health. They talked about a program that was a few $1,000s that you could get into, and it would certify you basically to help people as like a psychonaut in this psychedelic space as they're healing themselves. But there's no guarantee that you'll have clients after you go through the program. And there's really not a space for you to really set yourself up as an expert in your field after you do it. And so there were clinical trials on clinicaltrials.gov. And so I just went with one of those. I was like, this should give me a leg to stand on, having gone through a clinical trial. And it'll give me that ability to talk about the benefits of how it can help. And it's more than just that recreational piece. And so I went on clinicaltrials.gov. I looked up my exact diagnosis, bipolar 2. And luckily, I was like one of like the last 2 spots to be filled. It was really exciting.
And this is one of the things that I told you I was going to talk about. There was previous usage of recreational mushrooms. Yes.
Yeah. So
what is the difference between taking it recreational and medically?
So the biggest difference between recreational and medical is set and setting. So with recreational, you can recreate the clinical trial setting and use that setting as like a healing space. But for the most part, when you think recreational, you think, or for me, I will not speak in generalizations. I will speak for me. So for me, recreational, sometimes when I would like dive deep into my subconscious, I would go with an intention. I wasn't really sure how to process it afterwards. But I went in with intention. Sometimes I didn't go in with any other intention other than to just relax and de-stress. In the medical setting, it's very much used to heal a specific thing. You're supposed to identify like a specific outcome that you wanted. For me in my clinical trial, that was self-compassion, because I realized that with like type A personality, like I'm very much like, I gotta get this done. Like, these are the goals. You have to do this. And I wanted a little bit of relief from that, because it was causing my mental health to suffer even more trying to grow a business that I love.
Tell us a little bit about your business.
Yeah. So, for context, I am a business resilience coach, and I help entrepreneurs, coaches, and sales professionals up-level both their leadership and public speaking skills so that they can magnetize their dream clients and book an extra 5 to 10 qualified leads into their appointment books every week.
Wow, that sounds great. Erin, I'm going to bring you on. Do you have any questions yet that you would like answered?
Yeah, thank you so much. And we're so excited to have you here, Diamond. My question for you is, when you started this journey and this process, is there a memory or a specific time where you recognized that this is helping? Was that an interaction with a family member or some personal experience?
That's a great question, Erin. Thanks. I do remember the moment that I realized that this had in fact worked for me. So it was a couple of months after the trial. I'm celebrating a year. It's crazy to say, but August 2nd of 2022 is when I had my like dosing day. So it's crazy to think that it's been a year, but I'm like, yay. And so it was a couple months after the trial, and I think it was a Tuesday. And I had worked out in the morning. I had showered. I was on my way to go get my daughter. It was in like the summer months. It was like was it? I guess that's fall technically, September-ish. And it was just a beautiful day. It was so bright and so sunny. And I had all of these endorphins from like having just worked out. And I remember driving to my daughter's school. And for the first time in my life, I thought to myself, it would suck to die today. And it was so surreal, like just the warmth of the sun on my face, the knowing that I was about to see my daughter, knowing and feeling like happy and good inside and out, and just being like, yeah, I would, whereas before I would have like passive suicidal thoughts like, oh, if I got into an accident today, it wouldn't be so bad. My family will get the insurance money or whatever it is. Like, it was like, no, like I want to do things with my life. Like I want to enjoy life. Like it would really suck to die today. So that's like my most, showing of when I knew that this had worked.
That isn't, that's one of the things that I find fascinating, is that we can always put that, oh my God, my family, at least they'll get insurance, which is a hell of a lot better than what they're getting right now. Can you explain a little bit of, can you go a little further into some of the depression that you were feeling, and how long had you been feeling it?
Yeah. So part of the qualification for the trial was that you had to have not received relief from your depression for longer than 2 months. So that means that for as long as I could remember, there wasn't a chunk of 2 months where I was happy and nothing like messed with it. Like there was always something that came up. It might have been instances where I had like a week of happiness, and then actually, to explain my depression, I have to talk a little bit about bipolar 2. So bipolar 2 is different from bipolar 1 in that mainly hypomania versus mania. So people with bipolar 1, they have mania, and that's usually what you think of when you think, oh, they're bipolar. It's like very extreme highs and lows, maybe spending money that you don't have, maybe being sexually promiscuous, things of that nature. And people with bipolar 2, their mania or hypomania in bipolar 2 isn't as strong. So you don't have those like like super strong reactions. What you do, however, have are longer, deeper periods of depression. And those for me were debilitating, because it would be to a point where I would, as bad as it sounds, I would look forward to those hypomania moments, because it was the only time I felt like I was on top of the world and I could do any and everything. Because when I wasn't having a hypomanic episode where I had that influx of energy from wherever it comes from in bipolar, I was on the floor, not wanting to move, wanting to just honestly disappear into nothingness. Like, it was, I remember days, I have a daughter and she's 6 now, but I remember, you know, a couple of years ago, I was laying on the ground because I think I just like finished working out or something, or trying to work out. I don't think I actually got the workout done because I didn't feel like it. And I was just laying on the floor, kind of like in defeat. And my family came in and they were like, "Are you okay?" And I kind of just didn't say anything because I didn't know what to say. Like, I didn't want to lie and be like, "Yeah, I'm okay." But I also didn't want to explain all of the reasons why I wasn't okay. And so it was easier just to say nothing and just to like wish that I was just like, gosh, this, let me disappear in this moment. And those times are difficult for me to reflect on, but they just show me how far I've come from those moments of that deep depression where I really wish that I wasn't here anymore.
Erin, let me ask you a question. You mentioned 2 weeks ago when we first had you on that you had dealt with your own little bit of depression. Does any of that sound familiar to you?
Yeah, it's kind of like I really could resonate with what you said, Diamond, about I don't want to lie, but I also don't really want to like really just hash it out again, because it's like this continual cycle of just feeling like I'm bringing drama, or I'm feeling like my life is just constantly falling apart. So I could relate to you with that, and also the medication side of things. I went to a treatment center about 10 years ago, and I remember being on medication for depression. And I was like, my goal is that I show up at this treatment center and I'm just going to stop cold turkey, even though the doctor said that I could never stop the medication, which I didn't know that going into it. And I don't think they were trying to hide things from me. I just didn't know the seriousness of the medication. And I still remember that I quit. And I'm not saying to do that, everybody. Like, I'm not saying that's the recommendation, but I'm so glad that I did, because it's like all of a sudden I could actually work through the things that were going on within myself, instead of, like you mentioned, almost like the numbness that ends up coming with that otherwise.
Yeah.
Stephanie, please interject.
Yeah, no. So Diamond and I were actually talking before we went live, and I shared that I was actually, and just because you guys kind of brought this up, I was actually exploring CBD with the medical condition with my older son when we were really struggling for sleep. You know, you go so long without sleep, things can get a little bit nuts, right? So I happened to be on a medical conference one day, and they dove into all the benefits, and I'll be honest, I had no idea. And I was very involved with athletics, with sports induced asthma as a kid. So I never explored any of that stuff. So, you know, I was shocked with how many benefits and, like, you know, reducing seizures in kids and all these things. These doctors were on this call talking about it. And that really made me like consider that, you know, to give us some relief where it's not a medication like that, you know, they say like melatonin and stuff long term is not so great for you. And I'm really cautious with what I give my kids. We try to do things as naturally as possible in every case that we can. So I guess my question is, this has helped you, but are you aware of some other conditions that this might help and bring relief to people with, somebody that might be watching that might be questioning like, ooh, is this for me? If you can share a little bit more about that, that would be great.
And Diamond, with that, can you please add your thoughts on dosing for your children, or and I know that's going to be a little difficult, but because that could be something that you could really help out families with.
Yeah. So in terms of other diagnoses that psilocybin can help with, addiction is a big one that it can help with, which ironically enough, to be a Schedule I drug, you have to have a high potential for addiction, which is it's simply not the case with psilocybin. But addiction, PTSD, depression, now bipolar 2. Bipolar 1 is, I believe, still on the fence simply because of the worry that the experience could trigger the mania. In people with bipolar 2, there's a little less worry about what they'll do if they go into a hypomanic state versus like people with bipolar 1, we don't want you spending money that you don't have, going out into the world doing things that don't need to be done. So bipolar 2 studies are still coming in, but definitely depression, PTSD, and addiction, to my knowledge. In terms of youth, it's hard, it's hard for me. I know that if my daughter was struggling with depression, I would want to at the very least try microdosing with her. And obviously this is like in her teenage years, not anywhere near like when she's like under 16, honestly. And that is simply my own personal value. I know that the standard where I live, because I'm in the DMV area, DC, Maryland, and Virginia, we have I-71 and I-81 compliant laws, which basically say that unless you are over the age of 21, you can't have THC, you can't have psychedelics. And I'm very much a firm believer in that rule, especially when you think about like brain development and things. But I also know that there are some teens out there who are really struggling with depression, and this could help. But that's a conversation between parent and child and physician, I guess.
Mr. Z.
Zach, and it's a pleasure to meet you, Diamond Drip, and everyone here. What a very unique name. I would imagine someone with psychedelics would imagine their diamonds dripping, and I think it's great that you're bringing up the world of antidepressants, and you brought up something that I have to agree with. And of course, I'm no doctor by any means, and I just want to mention that I can't give any medical advice, but being exposed to people that have worked with pharmaceuticals and veterans, I can only imagine that when someone is taking antidepressants, it just doesn't make them feel happy. They just feel numb and they're just going by the day. And I remember back in the day, I won't say the name of the company, but they had this ball just going through this park and just seemed very unhappy with the dark cloud. And my question for you, in terms of psychedelics, I know everyone has different effects when they take it or ingest it. What part of you do you believe enhances who you are? Is it your creative side, stamina, energy? When you take psychedelics, if you don't mind me asking, what part of you gets enhanced?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Thank you.
Simply put, your brain gets enhanced, and the way that it talks to other parts of the brain. One of the known benefits of psychedelics is that it can help you create new neural connections. And so this allows you to tap into different information from like in the past, different ways of thinking. And honestly, what else happens in the brain, other than the new neural connection, is that your default mode network, which is where your ego is housed, that actually powers down a little bit. And that is one of the biggest reports that people have whenever they go through a psychedelic experience, is this idea of ego death. And I love ego death, honestly, as weird of a thing that is to say. Essentially, the best way that I can explain ego death is being able to step outside of yourself, think about other people in a more loving way. And an example, I guess, because examples help solidify things home. I firmly believe that the world would be a better place if everyone, at the very least, microdosed. We would have less traffic. One of my main reasons of saying this is because most of the time, if you ever pay attention on like 495 or any major highway, majority of the traffic comes from that little area where you have to like yield and be nice to people and let them in,
Mhm.
but then they don't. or like Johnny, I gotta be where I want to be, is like riding the shoulder and then he runs out of room because like that's not a lane. Like all of these things. Like, if we would just step out of ourselves and realize that we're all trying to get places, we're all trying to, accomplish things in life. And this little car that we're in is just a piece of how we're getting to where we go. Like, if we all just like lower the default mode network a little bit, I think we would probably have less accidents. There'd probably be less traffic. And again, my belief is that the world would be a better place. So I think that the default mode network lowering, the new neural connections, and then of course, like my claim to fame of being like no antidepressants, yes, magic mushrooms, is that it actually activates the dormant serotonin receptors in your brain, which isn't that what antidepressants are just trying to do? They're trying to produce more serotonin and dopamine and feel good things. They can't, because they're not natural. They're not psilocybin. They're not magic mushrooms.
That's one of the points that I was going to bring up. This is for everyone who's all worried about, natural, organic, yet they sit there and they put in, composed chemical. Isn't that kind of defeating the purpose of what you're doing when, mushrooms, they don't add anything to them, do they?
No. And what's crazy? So I've done an interview with a woman who was studying clinical trials with psilocybin, and she told me that there are actually scientists trying to figure out how they can like extract whatever it is that helps with depression in magic mushrooms, but get rid of the psychedelic part. And I was like, they're trying to get rid of the wrong thing. Like, let's get rid of the nausea that comes when your body is like digesting the psilocybin and converting it into psilocin. Like, let's get rid of that part. The actual like visualizations and things that happen within that subconscious realm, those are what help you personalize the things that, that's what helps you dig into your past and move forward with a new belief or new gratitude about the things that you've gone through. Like, you can't do mushrooms without the whole thing. It was crazy to me when she said that.
Trevor, as someone obviously from another country, what is your thoughts about this conversation?
Oh, I got many thoughts going off. You could almost, pardon the pun, I'm always tripping on where I want to go to next. And I don't know, where am I going to start? Okay. I'm going to take it from this side first, because something that Diamond was saying was about lowering the level on everybody. And to be honest with you, there are so many traits of people being, let's say, bipolar or feeling depressed and all the rest of it, that at what point do we recognize that within ourselves? At what point should other people recognize it before going to see some medical professional? Because I think we all have these swings in and out of these incidences or zones, whatever they're actually called, every day that we live. Whether you're classed in, well, you're someone that doesn't need medication and you're someone that does. I think we all have that. And something you made me think about being a chef. Now, legalized drugs and unlegalized drugs. What about cigarettes? Doesn't that wasn't that really come around about, well, let's have that for a calming factor? Okay, but it does also have a side effect that it can give you lung cancer and things like that. But the actual aspect of something which is meant to be normal, but the sort of drugs that you're talking about doesn't give you cancer. So why aren't we replacing cigarettes with more magic mushrooms? Now, here's another one. If all the women would like to come over for dinner tonight and I serve you some nice chocolate and some nice wine, are you not going to get the same buzz that some of these drugs or health products, let's call the health products because they're naturally grown? Because I think things like marijuana is a far healthier product to use than it is to have some white powder crushed up by some other chemicals. I believe in whatever's natural is in the world for a purpose. Now, there are certain fish that also can give you these sort of feelings. So why aren't we embracing and taking those and learn how to get our bodies to tolerate that, as opposed to try and fight, well, you know, you're on a psychedelic trip there. I don't know, that's good. But then, just to finish off, aren't the most craziest people in the world usually the most flamboyant, the ones that are most creative? You know, think of painters, artists, musicians. They're out on the spectrum. They're not in the spectrum where all the rest of us are. Comment, please.
Yeah, Benjamin Franklin was a well-known stoner. You know, he really was, and he was very, very creative. You know. Very important to our country, very important to Trevor's country, you know. But you brought up a great point, Trevor, on this too. You know, crushing up that white powder, that's made. That's not, cocaine does not come as, it's not just a plant. There's manufacturing when it comes to cocaine. It goes through a process to create it. There is no process here with mushrooms and THC. It's picked and sent. That's it. So, Diamond, what are some of the greatest advantages of what you've experienced?
The greater advantages of what I have experienced, I would say,
just like some of the things that you've noticed because of some of the changes that you've noticed since the use of psilocybin.
Yeah. So one, I've noticed that I'm happier. I'm able to say things like, no matter what other people may feel, I say things like, psilocybin helped me cure my depression. Whether or not you believe that or not, that's on you, but that's what I feel. And for me, like, I just feel happier, with the exception of one time a month, because bipolar 2 is a chemical imbalance in your brain. And so once a month, I have an influx of hormones and things to my body and my brain. And only then do I feel like what I used to, in terms of like, I don't want to get up out of bed today. I don't really feel energy to work out, or I just would rather not, just all the way around. But generally, after usually my PMS week, I'm back to feeling optimistic again. That's one of the best ways that I can say that psilocybin has helped me. It's helped me look at life with like that glass half full. I think that's what the happy people say. Like, happy people say glass is half full, whatever the other things are, whatever. But I would say that it's actually helped me in my business, because I am able to, like, things that I learned back when I was trying to grow one business, which maybe it didn't work for that business. Like, I'm able to be like, oh snap, maybe that could work here. And sometimes I have no idea where that came from. Even like I had this habit one time, like at one point, where I was just trying to learn as many words as I could. And every now and then, one of those random words that I learned will like pop up in my head in like the right perfect context. But I'm like, wait, do I know what that really means? And I have to go look it up really quickly and be like, oh wait, no, that was right. Just like little ways that my brain like starts to, oh no, I'm sorry, I should have done that. Just little ways that my brain helps me out in terms of information. And I would say the biggest way is just self-compassion. As a business owner, like my to-do list is forever long and always growing. And mushrooms help me be like, okay, you got a lot of stuff. You got a mountain to climb. We're not negating that. But what things can you do today that will help push the needle forward? Did you do them? Yes or no? Did the needle move? Yes or no? Breaking things down to simple levels like that and having having structures and systems in place that help me keep track of how much I move the needle forward. It's awesome. I don't know.
Well, Stephanie has a question for you, but first, Irene had a statement. And tell me how you feel about psilocybin. Is this, we use Chinese herbs to help the body heal because Western medicine doesn't always work, but no science will study it. Do you see that as fact here with psilocybin as well?
Yeah, 100%. Capitalism. It's, if I could expand, I don't want to.
No, go on ahead.
So my best friend and I wanted to create a space in the DMV for people who wanted to heal from psilocybin. And it was not easy to try and figure out, and we didn't figure out how to do it in a way that was financially viable for us as well as the consumer, because you have to, in the trial, there's prep, there's the day itself, and then there's the integration period of how you can help solidify those insights into your personal life. And so in order for us to have a facility or even Zoom sessions where we get to know a person enough to where they're comfortable enough in our presence to undergo and dive into that subconscious space, like that's going to take time. Like in sales and marketing, we say things like it takes 2 to 7 touch points for people to know, like, and trust you enough to do business with you, let alone have you be responsible for them subconsciously. So there's time of building relationships. There's the 8-hour session, because usually it takes about 4 to 8 hours for it to run through your system. Then there's the psychedelics themselves, because those cost money. And then journaling, and well, not journaling, but the integration piece afterwards. Like, how long does that look like? Is it every week? Is it every other week? Is it once a month? And figuring out the price tag associated with each of these things in order to package them as an experience to help people heal themselves. It was hard because we as business owners have to be compensated for the work that we do, but also it has to be affordable for the consumer. And we personally, her and I, we just couldn't figure it out with psilocybin, which is why things like ketamine are so, like, in DMT are like so great in terms of a business model perspective, because with those experiences, they can get you into that subconscious space, but it's like condensed. It's like a 30-minute session versus like 4 to 6 hours.
And I think that Z brought up a really good point. Look, you can't guarantee anything. You're not a medical doctor. You can't guarantee anything. But, this is kind of one of those things that you would definitely say, you know what, give it a shot. If this is your direction, give it a shot. Stephanie, your question, please.
Yeah. And my comment to Irene too is, big pharma over here. There needs to be money in it for them. Natural methods we wouldn't
Yep.
need them for. So that's kind of my feedback on that, just with our personal journey also. But I'm curious, Diamond, how do you take it? Like, is it a capsule? Because Zach mentioned like it's picked and sent to you. So I'm just curious about that. Because I know with CBD, it comes in all kinds of forms for people and for animals too. And there are different strains, they say, that are suggested for different symptoms. So is it, I don't know. Can you elaborate, expand on that? I'm curious.
Yeah.
And then she also had a question about pets. Is there anything to do, like, I know that you've got, when it comes to THC, you've got different strains for pets or stuff like that. Is there different things for different, like, anatomies?
So I think the research is still out on in terms of like anatomies. There are different strains of psilocybin mushrooms. Two of my favorite ones are blue meanies and hillbillies. Those are like the groovier ones that actually take you to a place where you do have those visualizations, should you take enough of them. In terms of how it can be taken, first, dose. So you can either microdose, which is no more than 0.5 grams, or you can hero dose, or what I like to call the experience dose, which is 5 grams or more. And so for me, during the trial, they were able to take 5 grams of mushrooms and somehow synthesize the psilocybin into these little itty bitty tablets, little capsules that I took. It was like 5 of them. It's pure magic. Because guess what? I tried to put 5 grams of mushrooms into caplets one time, and it was like 18 of them. So it's 100% magic what they were able to do in these little itty bitty capsules. You can also just for microdosing, capsules is my go-to. But in terms of the experience dose, you can make tea, you can make chocolate. I highly, 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 for anyone who may see this, recommend making your own chocolate versus buying it, because there are chocolates out there. I won't touch that, but I would highly recommend making it yourself, so that way you know exactly what's in it.
I've seen the tea before, and I think that that's a great idea. Can't you also just get it as the plant itself?
Yes, but as much as I love mushrooms so much, they don't taste great.
So you're not going to go and throw it on your favorite pizza, right?
No.
So, okay, well, let's go through the board and let's ask any questions or give us your thoughts, Erin.
Yeah. Again, thank you so much for sharing. And what do you think is the greatest misconception or misunderstanding that someone might have about this topic? And that might even be, I'm not sure if you had even a thought process behind it before you ever tried it.
Yeah. I think probably the biggest misconception about psilocybin magic mushrooms is simply that people think like, oh, I'm going to take mushrooms and I'm going to go crazy, because that's been like what's been fed to us since like the Nixon era. And that is simply not true. And the biggest like myth buster I can say to that is it's all about set and setting. So when you go in knowing that anything can come up, including trauma, and you make plans to cope or to deal with the things that come up in those, and that's why like having someone there who's trusted, like a companion, is really recommended, whether that's a doctor, whether that's a close friend, because things are going to come up. Like, you're diving into your subconscious. And for people, when they run away, that's usually when things turn bad. That's usually when like the happy bouncing balls turn into like daggers that are like running after you, like trying to, you feel like you're about to die. Like, that's usually when you're running. You can't run away from yourself. Like, that's what I'll say. When you go in deal with psychedelics, you're going deeper in yourself and you can't run away from yourself. And when you try, that's usually when trips turn challenging.
I love this suggestion that you just made, planning. Make sure that you're not going to be around a group of people. You don't know how you're going to react to it. It's look, there's there's warning labels on all pills, on all medications. This is one of those things, you got to do this responsibly. And that's, just to save our own butts here. We're not telling people to go out and just grab a whole bunch of this and just try it. We definitely talk to your doctor, make sure that you have a plan in place. But again, you know what? If you need to talk to somebody, reach out to Diamond. Right here is one way that you can get a hold of her, and she can help walk you through how to make sure this is right for you first. Okay, because this is something that, look, Diamond, what about people who have heavily addictive personalities?
For people with heavily addictive personalities, while I found THC and psilocybin to not be addictive, I can't speak for someone who has those qualities. What I can say is making sure that you have a support system in place that can hold you accountable to your goals, because your goal is to be happier. So if you have a support system in place who knows that this is the tool that you're going to use to help you reach your goal, then I think that would be helpful. And that's really the only thing I can speak on.
Okay. Mr. Z, you've got to run here in 5 minutes, so let's get your thoughts.
Great topics. Great idea of debunking some myths about microdosing and taking hallucinogenics. And not to get political, but I have to agree with you on the statement of how the media likes to brainwash people about the benefits or the side effects of psychedelics, and antidepressants. Like, oh, if you're having a problem, take this. Don't worry about the weight gain, dry mouth, and all that stuff. I mean, that's just normal. When we were having this conversation, it reminded me of one of those Keanu Reeves memes, and he's like, what if psychedelics allows us to see the earth as is, and the government's just not letting it because they're poisoning the air, and the psychedelics are the cure? So it got me, reminded me of that. So I think it's great to meet someone like yourself, Coach Diamond, and keep spreading those acres of diamonds of psychedelics.
I love that. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you, Z, for
you.
joining us again. Your input is always so well needed and loved. But I know you got to jump off soon, but I did want to thank you. Stephanie.
Yeah. Just wanted to mention that years ago, I knew someone with a mental health condition whose doctors changed the medication, didn't monitor, and it went horribly wrong. And this was with traditional medicine. So just wanted to kind of throw that out there into this conversation, because I feel like, it all kind of ties in. But are there additional resources you would suggest for someone who wants to learn more, that might be listening? And one other question would be cost, or maybe, I know you suggested microdosing too, like just a general range if people are curious that are kind of tuning in.
Yeah. So first question. Yeah. So remember how I was like, there aren't a lot of diverse faces talking about the benefits of psychedelics? Yeah, I became one of those Black faces. So on the digital business card that Zach is dropping, there's something on there about mushrooms. It's a playlist. So it's like my version of, like, if you never had any experience with psychedelics ever, this is a good place to start in terms of like how it helped me, how you can prepare for a hero dose experience. So that, and then in terms of like numbers wise, in DC at the very least, I know that the range can be, let me see. It's been a minute since I've been in the pop-up market. Probably anywhere between $40 to like 300, depending on what exactly you're trying to do. Yeah.
Boy, 300 worth of mushrooms. That's kind of scary to see. Trevor?
Sorry, playing with mute buttons here. So, Diamond, I know. See, I talk so much, I had to have a double mute on, so I didn't interrupt you. So, what I wanted to ask you, Diamond, was we all want to live in a happy environment. Now, we got those that require assisted help from yourself. We got those that are so far from it that their whole life, as they see it today, is, let's say, doom and gloom. What would you suggest for somebody to say, look, okay, before you venture out, here are some tips on what we can all do to make ourselves to have a brighter day, a good day, because all days are actually good. And I'm going to stereotype here. Most of it is all down to perception. You know, we all go through the same troubles in life pretty much as everybody else. So if I'm sat there today and thinking, oh, woe is me, what would you suggest before maybe getting to the magic mushroom stage, that maybe like a training, like a workout, that we could all do, and maybe all spend 5 or 10 minutes every day of the morning getting up and say, here's a little regime that you could do. Have you got something like that for us?
What a wonderful question, Trevor.
It is a wonderful question. Before they even consider psychedelics, this is like, okay, so what I'm about to say is very spiritual. It's not religion at all, but one of the things that I would say helps me, even if we took psychedelics off of the menu, is just having a routine of gratitude. And by that, I mean, not only for waking up, but for those who came before you. In Ifa, which is a West African spiritual practice, is what I'm currently studying. One of the things that they talk about is giving thanks to your ancestors, giving thanks to a higher purpose or a higher power, whether that's the universe, whether you think that's a woman, man, whatever it is, but just knowing that there is something bigger than yourself and being grateful for being even just an atom in this huge like microcosm of things. And so it's said sometimes that when you're in a place of gratitude, it's almost impossible to be like sad, because you're thinking about the things that you have. You're not thinking about what you don't, what you lack. You're not living in this scarcity. You're actively choosing to live in an abundant mindset, even if it's just for a minute or two, and looking for the things that you have to be grateful for. And that has been one of the things that's helped Taylor's dad. I'm very lucky that I feel like I've cured my depression, but he is not so lucky, especially when it comes to his anxiety and his depression. And, you know, I'm working my magic mushroom fingers on trying to get him to have an experience dose, but that's something that he has to come to on his own, unfortunately, as much as I want to be like, horse, drink water now.
Can understand that. You mentioned a book a little bit earlier, and I went on and I found it here on the almighty Amazon, so people can find it. And like you said, quite a name there. How to Change Your Mind: What the New Science of Psychedelics Teaches Us About Consciousness, Dying, Addiction, Depression, and whatever. And could they have added a few more in there? You know, I mean, geez, how big is this book? Is this like a magazine cover? You know, I mean, that's a lot of words there. But you would definitely suggest this book to anybody who wants to learn a little bit more?
Yes, I say that hesitantly because I will preference or disclaim that Michael Pollan is awesome for going through these experiences and documenting them. I would say there's a little bit left to desire in terms of the storytelling piece. So it is going to be something that you're going to have to make sure that you're like paying attention to catch everything it is that he's saying, because it's a lot. Like the title, it's a lot.
My one of my last questions for you is this: give us a warning if you're feeling a certain way. In your mind, you think we should stay away from trying this at that time? Like if say I am anxious, is this a great thing to try right at that moment?
Ooh, no. If you're anxious or like at a peak of emotion that is negative, I would highly recommend not diving deeper into your subconscious in that moment, because you have to be able to enter that space openly, honestly. And when you are like highly anxious, for example, that could turn bad, because then let's say for example someone's like, oh, I'm so anxious, like, "Urgh," and they decide to take psychedelics in that moment, that will only worsen what it is that they're going through. Like, because then at that point you're anxious about like, did it kick in? Like, am I feeling it? Like, there's all of these extra anxieties or extra fears when you enter from a place of like that non-openness. Oh my gosh, why can't I think of a better word for that right now?
Erin, you've got to be jumping off. I'd like to give you any last words that you may have.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your experience. And, I think that I'm totally on board with about, the pharma kind of scenario. I think we're kind of all on the same page about that for sure. And you definitely have shared some things that have, I think, opened everybody's eyes. And I just really appreciate your vulnerability. I love your, energy about you, just how, you just have this lightness about you and this joy. And thank you so much for everybody. I know that this is going to be a great message that is going to touch somebody's heart in a really special way.
Well, Stephanie O'Neill Snow said, I survived suicide and have PTSD. Stephanie, please, if there's anything that we can do, anywhere that we can share, we definitely would like for you to go back and watch previous episodes of Footprints Forward. That's what this show is for, to try to find different ways to cope. Erin was on talking about the loss of her sister a couple weeks ago, and this show is based all around trying to find a solution for people who are going through what you've got. If there's anything that we can help you do, please contact us right here in any way possible. My information is right here if I can help you in any way. So congratulations on getting past the suicide, and please keep this, as terrible as this sounds, keep the struggle going, because the struggle means that you're trying to find a way to win. So I think that's just about it. Diamond, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Trevor, Stephanie, did either one of you guys have anything else to say?
It was wonderful meeting you, and just thank you for coming on and sharing your story.
And I was just going to say thank you for sharing. And there's always a solution. And as Zach says, reach out to somebody. You said this, Diamond. Have a support group. If you haven't got one, have somebody just next to you. That stranger can be sometimes the best friend of your life. Don't do it alone.
Yeah.
Well, again, Diamond, thank you Join us anytime that you feel like it. We loved having you on. We loved your openness, and like Aaron said, you know, you're just kind of a beacon of light. Everything about you was just so energetic and great. But thank you so much. I'm going to share this one more time. This is how they can get a hold of you. Is just go to connect with Diamond Drip and just keep up the great work. And if anybody wants to learn more, please reach out to Diamond. Again, we're here to try to help you go through any depression. We're also here to help you find your own way. Not everything is for everybody that we're going to show, but there's something going to be here for you. If you have a suggestion and you would like to get involved, please get a hold of us at footprints@communitypayitforward.us. Once again, that's footprints@communitypayitforward.us. Come on, tell us your story, tell us your journey, and help other people through suicide and depression. So for now, for the family, my name is Zach Clayton, founder of Community Pay It Forward, Community Dare to Care, and the PAC channels. We will see you next week right here on Footprints Forward.